The Dreamer, The Life of Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. Chapter 1. A Child Born into Segregation. Martin Luther King, Jr. was born on January 15, 1929, in Atlanta, Georgia, at a time when racial segregation was a harsh reality in the United States. He grew up in a loving, educated family. His father and grandfather were both Baptist pastors, and from an early age, Martin was taught the importance of faith, dignity, and standing up for what is right. But even as a child, Martin experienced racism firsthand. He saw signs that said, "Whites only," and lost white friends who were no longer allowed to play with him. These moments deeply affected him and planted the seeds for a lifelong fight for justice. Chapter 2. Education and the Power of Ideas. Martin was an exceptional student. He skipped grades and entered college at just 15 years old, studying sociology. He later attended Crozer Theological Seminary and then earned a Ph.D. in theology from Boston University. While studying, Martin was deeply influenced by thinkers who believed in nonviolence, especially Mahatma Gandhi. He began to believe that love, peaceful resistance, and moral courage could defeat hatred and injustice. These ideas would soon move from theory into action. Chapter 3. A Young Pastor Steps Forward. In 1954, Martin Luther King, Jr. became the pastor of a church in Montgomery, Alabama. At just 25 years old, he was intelligent, calm, and deeply persuasive. He did not yet know that history was about to call his name. Montgomery was a city strictly divided by race. Black citizens were treated as second-class citizens, especially on public transportation. Tension was growing, and change was coming. Chapter 4. The Montgomery Bus Boycott. In 1955, a black woman named Rosa Parks was arrested for refusing to give up her bus seat to a white passenger. Her arrest sparked outrage. Martin Luther King, Jr. was chosen to lead a protest that became known as the Montgomery Bus Boycott. For 381 days, black citizens refused to ride city buses, choosing instead to walk miles every day. Despite threats, arrests, and even his home being bombed, Martin remained committed to nonviolent protest. The boycott succeeded. Segregation on buses was ruled unconstitutional, and a young leader was born. Chapter 5. A Movement Takes Shape. The success in Montgomery turned Martin Luther King, Jr. into a national figure. He helped found the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, or SCLC, to organize peaceful protests across the South. King traveled constantly, speaking in churches, organizing marches, and encouraging people not to fight hate with hate. He believed that justice could only be achieved through love, even when facing violence. His message inspired thousands, but it also made him a target. Chapter 6. Jail, Struggle, and Moral Courage. Throughout the early 1960s, Martin was arrested many times. One of his most famous moments came in 1963, when he was jailed during protests in Birmingham, Alabama. From his cell, he wrote the powerful Letter from Birmingham Jail, defending peaceful protest and criticizing those who told him to wait for change. His message was clear: justice too long delayed is justice denied. The letter became one of the most important documents of the civil rights movement. Chapter 7. The March on Washington. Later in 1963, Martin Luther King, Jr. helped organize the historic March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. More than 250,000 people gathered peacefully at the Lincoln Memorial. There, Martin delivered his most famous speech, "I Have a Dream." He spoke of a future where people would be judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. The speech echoed across the world and became a defining moment in American history. Chapter 8. Laws change, but the struggle continues. The movement led to major victories. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965 helped end legal segregation and protected voting rights for Black Americans. That same year, Martin Luther King Jr. became the youngest person to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. He accepted it humbly, dedicating it to the movement and to nonviolence. But Martin knew the struggle wasn't over. Poverty, inequality, and racism still existed, even outside the South. Chapter 9. A Broader Vision and Growing Opposition. In his final years, King expanded his focus. He spoke out against poverty, economic injustice, and the Vietnam War, believing violence abroad and inequality at home were deeply connected. These positions made him more controversial. Some supporters turned away. Government agencies monitored him closely. Still, Martin refused to stay silent. He believed leadership meant speaking truth, even when it was uncomfortable. Chapter 10. A Life Cut Short, A Legacy Eternal. On April 4, 1968, Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated in Memphis, Tennessee, at the age of 39. The news shocked the world and sparked grief across nations. Though his life was short, his impact was immense. His words, actions, and courage reshaped history. Today, Martin Luther King Jr. is remembered not just as a civil rights leader, but as a symbol of moral courage, peace, and hope. He taught the world that darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. And his dream of justice, equality, and dignity for all continues to inspire generations.